be a big crowd today. So oh, but for those who don't know me, I'm Jordan. I'm with a company called Diane Endeavors. We do all things print marketing, so your brochures, your signs, and we do a lot of full service mail. Obviously, we're not here to talk about that today. We are here to talk about farming. So when we talk about farming, when I first bring it up to agents, a lot of the time I get questions of, oh, well, what is farming? Or it's maybe a word you've heard thrown around, you've read it, but you're not entirely sure what it is. Farming is really pretty simple. It's just targeted marketing that's going to a specific geographic group of people. It has nothing to do with agriculture, nothing like that. The name comes from the fact that it's something you do over time and you reap the benefits of it the longer you do it. Big main aspect of farming is consistency. So just like when you're gardening and doing actual farming, the day that you plant the seeds is not the same day that you get apples from your apple tree. You know, you have to plant the seeds, you have to water, nurture relationships, and really build on it over time. So it's not a one and done. It's a system that you have to be very consistent with to see the results of. And it's something you should be strategic with as well. We'll talk through all the different factors and different systems when it comes to farming. You also have a lot of the math breakdown in your workbook. So the goal is kind of for you guys to leave here and be able to go through, run your numbers, and determine what's a good first step for your farming. So results from farming really can vary, depends on where you're farming, how consistent you're being, what you're doing, but they can really be astonishing. We've helped agents build their business from the ground up just through geographic farming. You know, if they're new to an area, they don't know anyone here, they don't have any friends or family, they just start with farming. You can really build a really sustainable, high quality business from it. So when we're talking about farming, a big thing we want to focus on is building mind share with people. So when people think about real estate, when they think about selling their house or buying a house, we want them to think about you. You want to be that first agent that pops into their mind. And the really big reason for that is the majority of people go with the first agent they happen to think of. According to NAR, 80% of sellers only call one agent when it's time to sell their house. I don't know about you guys, but I much rather know that I'm the one person they're calling. I don't have anybody to compete with when I go do my listing presentation. So same thing, vast majority of buyers go with the first agent they think of. How do we become that one agent? How do we build that mind share with people? When we're talking about farming, the majority of the time we are talking about non-met contacts. So people in the neighborhood, perhaps they don't already know you, they don't already have a relationship with you, that makes them a non-met. The main difference really between your non-mets, so people you meet through farming, and your met, something like your sphere of influence, is you essentially just have to work a little bit harder for your non-mets. The ratio on it is 50-1. So for every 50 non-met contacts you have, you can expect about one transaction. This is taken straight from the MREA at a national level. And by no means trying to say like, talk to 50 people and you'll get a deal. Not like that, just on average, 50-1. Controversially, not controversially, in contrast, your met contacts is a 12-2 ratio. So for every 12 people, you can expect a referral and a repeat transaction. So obviously the math is a little more in your favor when it comes to your met contacts. I say all that not to scare you off of talking to non-mets, but to shift your mindset when you're talking to non-mets, the goal is to turn them into met contacts. So you want to take somebody who doesn't know you, invite them to engage with you in a way that they start to build that relationship, they turn into a met. That highlights that. So, you know, if you have your farm over here, you put them into your CRM, Command, or whatever you happen to use. You run your system for farming with them. This one, they gave the example of the 12 direct. That will generate your new business, which brings them over to the Met side. So same deal, they go into your CRM, you run a 33 or 36 touch, that generates your repeat and your referral business. With your non-Mets is yes to get new business from them, but to also turn them into Met contacts. So 12 Direct is the most common system used for farming. It's 12 pieces of contact throughout the year. Most people will use just easy to leverage activity. You don't have to go out and door knock 500 homes. You could just send postcards or other types of mail instead. So 12 in a year, pretty easy math there. That's about one a month. When we are thinking about farming, I always encourage agents, be really strategic with where you farm. There's a variety of factors to keep in mind when you're evaluating a potential neighborhood, starting with traction, number of homes, turnover, agent dominance, the earning potential, and then the cost. And we'll break down all of these. This is where kind of the math starts in your workbook if you want to follow along here. The first up is traction. Why are you farming this neighborhood? What ties you to this neighborhood? What connections do you have there already? Is it a neighborhood that you live? Perhaps you already know some of your neighbors organically through bumping into them when you're walking your dog. If it's not somewhere you live, maybe it's a neighborhood you've already had success in. You've already had maybe a listing that sold well. Maybe you helped a buyer purchase a home in there. If none of those, if it's just an area that you frequent. We had an agent who she didn't live in a neighborhood. She's kind of out in the country, but her best friend lived in a really established neighborhood with a big HOA. They did a lot of events. And she was always over there, like visiting her friend, going to the pool. So she started farming that neighborhood, used to seeing her. So a little bit, why there? Why are you farming there? Think through those things. Also make sure it's somewhere that's convenient for you. If you live in Buford, maybe you don't farm like Covington, Georgia, make it somewhere that's easy to get to, a place you want to have listings in. Next up, number of homes. So number of homes is going to help you calculate your turnover ratio. It's also going to help you with the cost of it. It's pretty straightforward to look through tax records to determine the number of homes. You can either use Remind or you can use the Polygon tool through Realist. One thing I like to point out is if you're pulling from tax records and you notice the tax billing address and the property address are different, especially if the tax billing is like California or New York, that usually indicates that the owner does not live. It's a rental or they have it as an investment property, they're flipping it. So you can either still mail to them, just mail to the tax billing, or take them off your list. So some things to keep in mind when you're calculating number of homes. Next is your turnover ratio. How many homes are selling in the neighborhood? Is it a neighborhood that people move in and out of frequently? There are some areas where people just don't move for whatever reason. Once they buy their home in there, they're settled, they're done, they're going to die there. That's it. There are some neighborhoods where people are moving a lot. Obviously, the more people are moving in and out, the more potential business you have to take. We want at least a 5% turnover ratio. And to calculate that, you'll take the total number of homes and divide it by the number of homes that have sold in the past 12 months. So these are closed sales as well, not anything that's withdrawn or expired. Only count the things that have closed and actually sold. So for example, Abensong Village, which is a neighborhood we help an agent farm, they've sold 25, which gives you that 5% turnover ratio. If it's a little higher or a little lower, I always encourage looking back like past 2 to 3 years to get you a bigger picture idea of it, not just base it off of 1 month of sales, especially if it's a smaller neighborhood. A neighborhood of 50 homes, if they have 1 home sale, kind of a wildly different number. So keep that in mind when you're calculating turnover. Next is going to be agent dominant. Is there already somebody in there who's selling the majority of homes? And this is one that agents get hung up a lot. Like, oh, I know Bob down the street is a real estate agent, so I'm not even going to try the farm. Just because there's a real estate agent in there doesn't mean any of your other neighbors know there's a real estate agent in there, and they may not like that person. They might not use that person. I'm sure nothing against that guy. Sure, he's great. So when you're thinking about farming, always check to see what agents have actually sold in the neighborhood. Don't just base it on your gut feeling of like, oh, I'm sure they do a lot. Actually look through the sold data. It might surprise you to see what people are doing in there. Less than 15%, so if one agent has sold less than 15% of the recent sold, don't even worry about it. Don't let that concern you. Anything more than 20% is where you need to start being aware of the fact that they're in there. Some agents, there's kind of two schools of that. Some agents, if there's a lot of competition in a neighborhood and there's somewhere else they could easily farm, they opt to go somewhere else where there's not that competition. So say you're looking at a neighborhood and you had a listing in there. That's where you're thinking about farming. But you check and there's one agent who's just crushing it. They have 35% of the market share in there. It would probably be a better use of your time and energy to go to a different neighborhood where you've had equal success that doesn't have that dominant agent. If it's a neighborhood you have strong ties to, like if it's where you live, you really want to farm it, and You can use that a little bit as just encouragement to double down on your farming efforts because you know it's going to be just a little bit harder to win over that market share from people. So don't let it scare you off. There have been many agents who tell tales of, I started farming in my neighborhood. There's an agent in there with 50% of the market share, and I just won it over from them. So if you're a competitive person and that drives you, go for it. Don't let that stop you.
Jordan, can I add one thing to that? I'll tell you that a lot of my one-on-ones that I have, the majority of agents don't actually farm where they live. So for whatever reason, a lot of people don't like to mix their personal space with business. So if you are not farming your neighborhood and you know what your numbers are, I think you're missing a huge opportunity if you're active in your neighborhood, because majority of agents, in fact, I was in 2 neighborhoods this weekend, did a lot of stalking, and I saw 4 signs on the same street that an agent lived, and it was none of them were our signs. So I think that's a missed opportunity.
So if you're looking in FMLS, you can right click to add a column. If you all don't know how to do this, I'm happy to show you after class. Pretty straightforward. And you can look through, sort by agent name, and see what people have sold recently in there. Always good to have an idea of what's going on, who's selling what. Next up is going to be earning potential. I always give a heavy preface to this, obviously, in light of all of the fun lawsuit stuff. When we're talking about the earning potential of a neighborhood, it's in light of what you personally tend to charge for compensation, not anything anyone needs to get upset about. So when you're calculating that, take a look at the average sales price of the neighborhood, see how many homes have sold, which you've already gotten from your turnover ratio, and multiply that by your personal typical compensation of the earning potential of the neighborhood. I know this is a lot of math. I promise it's not hard math. Once you have that number, that total earning potential of that neighborhood, I want you to chop it in half. Even if you're doing an amazing, fantastic job of farming and everybody in the neighborhood knows you and loves you, unfortunately, there are going to be people who don't use you. There are going to be people who sell off market, people who do a cash offer, people who use their best friend who just got a real estate license yesterday. Be prepared for that. Don't plan on the whole neighborhood selling with you. Take that number, cut it in half. And that gets you an idea of what that earning potential of the neighborhood would be. So if it's a neighborhood average sales price is around 400,000, you've got 25 homes that have sold, that gets you around 150,000. Good numbers to keep in mind when you're calculating how much you're willing to invest when it comes to farming. Luckily, we live in a pretty nice area where the average home price for the majority of neighborhoods kind of justifies the cost, but always something good to keep in mind. And then finally, calculating the cost to farm. This is something I like to bring up just because it's important to consider the cost when you're taking on a farm. As we talked about in the beginning, it is something you need to be able to commit to doing consistently for 12 to 16 months before you can expect to see results. So it's much better to know the cost going into it and make sure you're comfortable with committing to that cost. So this, obviously, it varies depending on what you're sending, how often you're sending, if you're doing events, anything along those lines. I would say the bare bones would be just 12 postcards, so 1 a month. With us, they're $1.15 first class. Take that, multiply it by the number of homes, it gets you the total for the year. I recommend starting with your marketing budget, what you're comfortable committing to spending on the neighborhood. Thinking through your mail pieces, are you going to do just the cost-efficient postcards? Are you going to mix in some items of value? Are you going to do any events in the neighborhood? We'll talk a little bit more about that, but things to keep in mind when you're doing your budget. Once you have that kind of mapped out, you can reverse engineer your budget to determine how many homes you can afford to farm for the year. It's much, much better if you can commit to mailing to 100 homes the whole entire year than mailing to 1,200 homes once. So far better to reduce the number, but keep the consistency than up the number and lose the consistency. So think about that in the beginning so you don't get 6 months into it and you're like, oh, nobody sold a house with me, I'm going to stop doing this. And you've essentially kind of wasted all of that marketing budget. So when we're talking about getting started with farming, I always encourage people to start with an introduction to the neighborhood, something to explain who they are, what they can do to help, and anything that adds a personal, significant detail about you or your life to make sure they know, like, I'm a real person. I'm not Mark Spain with my face on a billboard. Like, I actually exist. I actually live in the neighborhood, live in the area, and want to help you. If you have a dog, a lot of people like to mention like, oh, you might see me out walking Spot, feel free to say hello. So things like that are great. We've got examples of all this in y'all's packets, but we can do an introduction as a note card, as a postcard, really whatever we want to do. Like the one that we sent out for Brittany, she made sure to include her 2 puppies on it. So cute. So an introduction, let them know who you are, why you're mailing them. To kick off with that. And then with the 12 Direct, we're committing to doing mailers monthly. So that can look like either postcards, which are going to be your most cost efficient, your cheapest option, or you can mix in items of value that are a little bit more memorable. Most agents tend to do a blend of the two. So a couple items of value and then fill in the rest of the month with postcards. Some agents do just postcards. Some agents door knock. They do their 12 Direct is just through door knocking. That's your jam. More power to you. When we first start talking about the 12 Direct and postcards and mail, an objection I get a lot is like, oh, but mail, like, isn't mail kind of dead? Like, who uses mail anymore? We have social media. I am the biggest component because people really do remember mail more than they remember digital marketing. Yes, digital marketing, emails, all that is important. But who in here remembers the last email that they got? I've probably gotten like 20 emails in the time that I've been standing up here talking to you guys. Whereas direct mail, you have a lot less competition, a lot less competing forces for people's attention when it comes to a mail piece. I also check when I'm kind of winding down, I will look through everything I get. Sure, I might only hold on to it for a few seconds, but it's getting my full attention for those few seconds. Whereas anything digital, you're competing with their notifications, you're competing with other things they're seeing on their phone at the same time. Mail stands out and reaches people in a different way. Mail's not done. I think mail is really important. Some types of mail, again, we have samples of all these. There's a bazillion different ways you can send mail, a bazillion different things you can send. These are just some ideas, gonna have a jumping off point for you guys. So the most common type of mail is, so these are anything that are just front and back is what's considered a postcard. They come in a variety of sizes. This is 6 by 11 and then 8.5 by 5.5. So we can send these through first class, which means a printed address with a stamp. That goes to a curated address list specific. And if you know that 123 Main Street, take them off the list, you can be really curated with who exactly you're sending it to with first class. A second type of mail that we can do is every door direct mail. This goes to an entire postal route of people. It's a tool set up through the post office where you can mail the whole route. It does vary since the post office is predetermined the number of homes on that route. We see them anywhere from like 200 to 1,000. Most routes are in between like 300 to 500 homes, I would say. This is great because it's a little bit more cost effective than first class mail. You're saving on the postage. And when we're talking to our non-Mets, really, it's a numbers game. The more people we can get in front of consistently, the better. So if you are just sending things out, it's typically better to do a more cost effective option. The only downside of it, we can't change or alter the routes. So if you know somebody's an agent and they're on the route, sorry, they're getting one of your postcards. You also can't change the number of homes. So if the route is 593, you have to mail all 593. So depending on the neighborhood, depending on the area, it can vary if first class is a better option or if every door direct is an option. We can do both, and we're always happy to check both options for you guys if you're sending mail through us. Another benefit of first class mail is it's a good bit faster than, every door mail is a good bit faster than first class mail. So for something like an open house invite, if you send it every door direct, it gets there in 1 to 2 business days. Because essentially it just goes in a bundle to the post office that manages that route. They take it across the counter, the postman goes and puts one in every single mailbox. So they don't have to sort it, they don't have to process it like first class mail. They just can distribute it every door, quite literally. Pressed on time, so we can circle back on that. So postcard ideas. Really?
It's only 11:30.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're good. Breathe.
I have a good bit. I'm standing up here and you guys are like lunchtime. Okay. In that case, can you click on the every door tool for me? I don't know if I can click with this thing. So this, when we're checking a route, it's straight up just through the USPS website. This is something y'all can look up, or I can look up for you, whichever. You just need to type the full address in this search bar up at the top. Can we do 30 or sure. Which, if you have one, go for it.
For my own stuff.
Yeah, go for it.
Y'all can buy this up.
And you'll want to do the city and zip code as well, or maybe not. Maybe it'll pull it. So it'll search it up depending on.
Jason.
What?
I don't.
What?
You messed her up.
Oh, sorry.
I'm off script now. It'll search it up. The little marker is where the home itself is. All of these pink squiggles are different routes. If you click on the one the home itself is on, it'll highlight it blue, and that shows you exactly where that postcard will go. So go to all of this down here and then this little bit up here. And your total number of mail pieces is going to be 631. So
Has anybody ever seen that before?
yes.
Like, that is so cool.
In her office,
Yeah. 100%. I'm always happy to look it up for you guys. Some of them are better than others. Again, it's the post office, so sometimes you're like, wow, that makes a lot of sense, and sometimes you're like, who thought of that? Why is it coming all over the place? So that's how Everydor works. The great thing with that, as I said, it's faster, it's cheaper. The downside is you have to mail to all 631. So I will say they do have a lot of like random filters and things in here for your Everydors if you wanted to target specific demographics. I don't really put too much weight in it because I don't feel like it's kept too much up to date, but if you all ever want to fall down that rabbit hole, feel free. Okay, wanna wait. Okay, so postcard ideas, regardless if you're sending first class or if you're sending Everydor. I know no one wants to hear this, especially all the graphic designers on my team. They hate that I tell people this. It really doesn't matter what you send. It more so matters that you're sending stuff. Yes, you want it to be high quality. Yes, you want it to be nice and a good reflection of you. But often we all get a little too lost in the sauce of like, but what if I worded it this way and put a comma instead of a semicolon and then they'll sell their house with me? It's like, that's not the case. You want to be sending things consistently. You can worry about the creativity when you have the free time. I usually recommend a blend of real estate stats. So don't send stats for every postcard, but send them, maybe once a quarter, keep people up to date with what's going on in the neighborhood. Helpful information. So HVAC tips, we all know how important that is in summer in Georgia. Springtime reminders and different kind of fun stuff. So this one's an Earth Day themed card. It says, remember to recycle, reduce, and reuse your real estate agent. So a blend of those is what I recommend. Next kind of class of mail is going to be letters. Whenever I talk about letters at the most basic form, that's going to be a piece of paper folded in a number 10 envelope. So the contents of the letter, you can do a newsletter, a market update. You can do more of a traditional golden letter with the call to action that just, if you're thinking about selling, I have a buyer. It can really vary. It also depends on, why you're sending it out. Are you just updating them on the neighborhood? Or are you giving them an update on you? Pricing for those varies. Kind of basic, cheapest options, $1.50. We can do a lot of fun add-ons as well, like bright colored envelopes, handwritten addresses. And those bring you more into the $2.50 range. So, options for letters. One of the good things about letters, we send these out via first class. We can put a return address on these as well. Postcards, we kind of sort of can, but it's less likely to get returned than something like a letter with a more proper return address on it. So there's kind of a nice option to keep your list up to date. You can have a return address. So here are some examples. He did a kind of neighborhood market update with some stats. This was a New Year recap that we mailed out.
Hey, Jordan.
Yeah.
So she's talking about putting a return address on it. So the return, we mailed something out in January, I guess was one of the ones that we just saw, but and the return address on the top, like she's got our logo printed on the envelope with the return address with everything on it. Like it looks really good, all for the price that she's quoting, right? Like, so it's not like, oh, you want to print it, it's extra. They're not nickel and diming you, and it looks really good.
Thank you. I didn't pay him to say that.
And I do want to add one thing. I know you have postcards, but I really need the new SEC football schedule on a postcard this fall. So whoever's doing that, if you can make sure you put my name on there, because I haven't got one the last year or so. And because I mean, I get to, but I live in Milton, so I'm pretty far. But not many people over where we are do this anymore. And so, like, I always say that's on my fridge or my garage every single year. Whoever sends it to me, it goes in my garage. So having something
Like a million houses.
do what?
And you pop like a million houses.
I know, right? But things of value that go on them, I think is really important. So
We'll get to those.
yeah,
Oh,
but yeah.
So those are letters. As I said, lots of fun add-ons we can do for those. Something that I wanted to bring up more because it's a cool tool that we have. We can do data merged names on letters. So we can use tax record names and put people's actual name on the top of the letter. So if they open it, it doesn't say like dear neighbor, it says dear aunt or things like that. Of course, only as good as the information we have is, so grain of salt there. But I think that's something cool we can do is to merge it, make it more personalized. Greeting cards is going to be our next class of things we can mail out. We have A2, which is our 4¼ by 5½ size, and then A7, which is 5 by 7. So you have two kind of different size options. These are great for something like an introduction to a neighborhood because it goes out in an envelope. It really stands out in their mailbox full of bills, and we can make the message really personalized. You can even, if you want to handwrite your note, we can scan it and have it printed on the inside of all of your cards. So we have an example of that in here, one that we did for Samantha. So she handwrote her note on a blank piece of paper and then we scanned it in and printed it on the inside of all of her cards. So it looked like a personalized note, but she didn't have to handwrite 500 cards. And she's the one who mentions in here, P.S. if you ever see me walking a black and white doodle, please say hi. So she mailed those out to her neighbors. So again, we can do those with handwritten addresses. We can do them with data merged names, bright colored envelopes, all those fun add-ons. Here's some more examples. This one I really liked. We did it last summer. We're bringing it back, but it's a call to action of if you need a trusted home vendor. So people sent this out to their sphere or their neighborhood, letting them know if they needed a vendor recommendation to give them a call and they can connect them with a trusted partner. One of the great things of this office, we have a really good vendor network. We just finished with the vendor meeting today. So you have the ability to connect people to a trusted resource. So letting them know that you connect to them is an important piece of that. You have to do market update like Tatum did. And then large format. These are going to be anything kind of extra big, extra fun size. This is a 9½ by 12 postcard. So it just goes out first class with a name and a stamp. We can send this size every door direct mail as well. We can also do a mailed bifold, jumbo note cards, anything when you want something kind of extra large, special to stand out in a mailbox, kind of falls into that large format. So an example here of the bifold, she had the neighborhood on the front, market update, local events on the inside, and then her contact information on the outside.
Is that folded or is it?
Yep, so it gets mailed folded in half. It'll look size-wise like y'all's.
Okay.
I didn't put a sample of hers in here just because it was something she personally created and I didn't want to take her ideas without her permission. So it's not in there, but those are options. And then finally, items of value. So another blanket term, it's anything that's more than just a mail piece. So if you send out a magnet of some sort, if you're sending out fireworks glasses, any fun add-ons that just give it that extra little bit of razzle dazzle. We try to aim for ones that add value for people. So something that they want to hold on to and feel kind of special and warm fuzzy inside for getting. Prices on these kind of vary depending on the size, the weight, what we're sending. So as Sarah was talking about, you know, football schedules. These are great. They have the magnet on the back. They go on people's fridges all year long. So something like that, 8½ by 5½, you have a sample, I think, in your packet. Those kind of run at the higher end of $3 a piece. But something smaller like Braves, there's only one team that we have to squish on there. So it's a little bit easier to get it on a smaller side. Something like that would run $2.50 full service mailed. Another fun one we're coming up on is fireworks glasses. So these are the cool like 3D glasses that make the fireworks all psychedelic and cool if you watch the fireworks while wearing them. So those are fun to send out in June to celebrate 4th of July. Flower seeds, always kind of a fun option around the spring. So again, just some ideas, get you guys thinking. This is our handwriting machine. So it's a little robot that holds a real ink pen and it writes out addresses for you. So we have a sample of that on our yellow envelope in here. These are great because it has that personalized touch to it. It doesn't look like something that was mass produced. And you don't have to waste your time writing all of these. You don't have to hire your kid to do it. We can do it for you. The other great thing about the handwriting machine, it has 5 different ways of writing each character. So if you have like 2 O's next to each other, they'll be ever so slightly different. So it doesn't look robot or like automated. It's really cool. That's kind of mesmerizing to watch. When we first got it, we'd catch ourselves just. You never stop by our office. Do the handwriting machine if nothing else. So the scanned notes that we talked about, bright colored envelopes are an option as well. Lots of things to make it fun, make it different. Something like the envelope, it's only like a 10-cent add-on, so nothing too crazy price-wise. When we're talking about farming, when you inevitably see success in your farm and you start getting listings, think of your listings as an opportunity to really billboard, highlight what a great job you do of selling homes. I know you all do that regardless when you have listings, but even more so double down on it when it's one in your farm. So sending out mail for your listings, putting out signs, lots and lots of signs, as many signs as the neighborhood and the city laws will let you put out, put them out. Obviously check that, don't get in trouble. But if you can put out signs to it, host open houses. Open houses are really just a neighborhood event, but at a very cost-effective rate. So open houses treat it like an event, not just something you have to go spend your Saturday doing. Put the signs out, invite the neighbors, do the whole thing. As I mentioned, mailers, just listed postcards when you hit the market, let neighbors know about the new exciting listing. If timing permits, put the open house on there. Some agents like to do a neighbors only exclusive open house, make people feel like, ooh, special. They really want me there. Have my own private, 1 hour neighborhood open house before the rest of the public gets to go through. That's something you can do. Put it on there. So let them know about it. Give them a call to action on the back. You're not just highlighting the listing, you're also letting them know if they're thinking about selling, you can help them as well. Because look, you're doing such a great job. When you go under contract, once you're through due diligence, you can send out an under contract postcard, let them know that there's activity happening, especially if there are multiple offers and there are other people interested still in the neighborhood. It's a great opportunity to highlight that, let them know, hey, you've been thinking about selling. I had 4 buyers who didn't win this home, still want to move into this neighborhood. And then when you've closed, send out a sold postcard. A big kind of debate on this is whether or not you put the sales price on the postcard. Some people say, yes, of course, put it. That's what people want to know. Some people say, no, don't put it. If they want to know, I want them to contact me to find out how much the home sold for. I think a great option if you have your KW website set up and you have the sold listing on your website, put the QR code on there to say, want to know how much your neighbor's home sold for? Check it out on my agent website. And then boom, you have the opportunity to capture their contact information there. They get the information they need. Kind of a good win-win. That's something you can do. You can also mention if they're wondering what the sale meant for the value of their home, you can do a market analysis for them. Do a strong call to action with that. And then when we're talking about farming, setting up events. This is something you don't necessarily have to do, but it's a great opportunity to get in front of people, take those non-Mets, give them a face to put with your name, turn them into Met contacts. They don't have to be huge or expensive. As I mentioned, open houses can very much be an event if you treat it like an event and do the invite. Or you can also partner with the HOA if they're already doing events in the neighborhood, like a pool party or like a movie on the lawn. See if you can 1+ and add on to their event to, one, get your name out there, and then also the HOA is able to put on a nicer event for people. So it can be a good win-win. Big thing with events is the invite, making sure people know they're invited, even if they don't show up. People love to be invited to things. Some event ideas, more cost-effective ideas, yard sales that really only cost time and however much you spend on signage, get people to sign up for a yard sale. promote it on all of the local, like yardsale.com, put signs out the day of. You can do a coffee or a food truck, you can do barbecues, photos with Santa. You can do toy drives, which is one I really like, especially if you pair it with photos with Santa. You know, bring an unwrapped toy to give to our toy drive. You can let people just bring you toys if you live in the neighborhood. Easy things like that. They don't have to be hard. They don't have to be complicated. It's just a great way to get in front of people. Neighborhood groups is another good one. If your neighborhood has a neighborhood group on Facebook or on LinkedIn, not LinkedIn, Nextdoor, make sure you're joining those and you're active in the group. Not active in terms of promoting yourself and using it like a place to advertise, but active in using it a way to help people. So people post in the Facebook group like, hey, my roof is totally trashed after the storm. Who do y'all use for roofing? You can connect them with one of our vendors, one of our roofing partners. Make sure they know that you're a resource for the neighborhood. If your neighborhood does not have any neighborhood groups, you can create one. You can start one for the neighborhood. You can highlight that on your mail pieces, you know, join our neighborhood Facebook group, stay up to date with what's going on here, let people know. Previewing homes is also something I like to touch on. If there's a listing in the neighborhood that didn't use you, I know, make sure you preview the home. You need to know, one, all the homes in the neighborhood. You need to be educated on your neighborhood if you're going to be the local expert. And also, it gives you talking points. If one of the neighbors is asking you about the new listing, instead of saying like, oh, I don't know, they didn't list with me, you can say, oh, I just saw that home the other day. Really loved the upgrades they did in the kitchen. Backyard's a little small. You know, gives you something to talk about with people. Also gives you a really good reference for comps when you are having your listing appointments with people. Preview all the homes. And then finally, focus on being a part of the community. Yes, we want to generate business from our farms. We want it to be successful for us, but it's also a great way to build relationships with people that go far more than just listings and transactions. So if there's neighborhood tennis groups, swim club, things you're interested in, join in, be a part of it, get to know your neighbors, walk your neighborhood routinely, get to know people that you see on your walks. Just be friendly, stop and say hi. Things like that. Dogs are great for that. I promise it's not an ad to adopt dogs, but so in summary, mind share is what wins you business. Farming is how you build your mind share. Consistency over creativity. You pick the right farm. You know, make sure you're putting your money to work in the right place for you. Mail cuts through all the digital noise, helps get you remembered. Items of value plus postcard, in my opinion, give you the strongest recall. Be visible and valuable, and that's how you become the agent in your neighborhood. And if you're interested in sending mail, we can help you with all that. So come talk to me.
Good job. Good job, girl.
You said something, I want to comment on it. Yeah. Remember.